Hey everyone, welcome back to Film Talk. I'm Eliana Melendez, and I'm joined here today by my ever so lovely co-host, Miss Josie Melendez. And we're just, zooming through here so that we can talk about the latest in the biopic cinematic universe that
My
we
gosh.
are trudging through. Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, starring Austin Butler and Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks? Question mark? A little bit. But yeah, for those of you if you actually don't know, even though Elvis has gotten like a lot of big time promotion, Elvis is about the man, the legend, the king of rock and roll. The life story of Elvis Presley as seen through the complicated relationship with his enigmatic manager, Colonel Tom Parker. Enigmatic is a word.
Mhm.
That's a word to use. Yeah, we're just gonna dive into it. First impressions. We saw it last weekend. It opened last weekend for, the nation, and is pretty much distributed. You can kind of catch it anywhere because I feel like biopics are like the Marvel flicks for an older crowd, respectfully.
Yes.
So yeah, so you can pretty much catch it anywhere. It's nothing too obscure around these parts here. So why don't you take us away, Josie? Because I know you have some thoughts and you have some prayers.
I guess just my main thing with Elvis was like it's a solid 3 out of 5. Jumping into the rating. That's how I feel. Solid in the
Good,
middle.
good
Didn't
60%.
didn't love it, didn't hate it. It was just you're seeing it from the perspective of Colonel Parker, which is Tom Hanks's character. And there's just so much you can connect to because of course it is being told through this distant point of view, because even though he was in his life, he wasn't really in his life. He didn't know Elvis the way that his closest family members might have.
Mm-hmm.
So we never get a chance to actually get in Elvis's head. So it's definitely like a looking through the looking glass kind of thing. And just, yeah, I wanted more in that sense, but it's also kind of like a concert. It's a spectacle. It's Baz Luhrmann. It's what he does best with like Great Gatsby and Moulin Rouge. It's his style. And we definitely got that. So I guess in that department, yes.
Just yes. That's the rating. Visually, yes. It's there. It's present. It's definitely like packed with glitz and glamour. I don't even want to know what the storyboards looked like. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
they would just, it was dizzying at some point, and it's honestly, I feel like the runtime is just way too bloated. It's almost 3 hours. I felt like I ran a marathon
Mm-hmm.
during that screening.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not the, at least if you're into Baz Luhrmann's style, then yeah, go off, sis. This is your end game, honestly. But it's just, to me, I think the first act really hits it right out of the park for the most part because it is so
Mm-hmm.
crazy and wild. And since it is from Colonel Tom Parker's point of view on his deathbed. You know how old people just kind of like get deviated and go on tangents and
Mm-hmm.
take narrative detours on the regular? That's literally this movie. That is literally how you are receiving the information about Elvis Presley's life, from just a very strange, just old man on his deathbed outside perspective. And I don't know if that was really, in my opinion, the approach that could have stuck with this, because I can understand having that for the bit, for like the first half maybe. But for the whole movie, where we just, again, we don't really get to connect with Elvis. Austin Butler does his damn best because the rent was due.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see, I can relate. I think he is almost even more charismatic of a performer than Elvis himself, because I've been seeing a lot online comparisons between Austin Butler's like mannerisms versus like the original performances by Elvis Presley. And a lot of people were saying, "Where's the flavor?"
Yeah,
With the
no.
original Elvis. With
Yeah,
the
no,
original
exactly.
Elvis.
Yeah, Austin Butler really brought something to be recognized. I mean, if there's a clear takeaway from this film is that Austin Butler is a star, and we have been saying this since Zoe 101.
since Zoe 101
and the Carrie
in
Diaries.
this economy. Oh
Yes.
my god. That's a
A lot
throwback.
a lot of us crushed on this man when we were teenagers, and look at him now.
I mean, he is very much a typical pretty boy, but I think aside from his typical pretty boy looks, there is like actual stage presence. I thought, you know, we needed more focus. The movie's called Elvis, and I'm saying we needed to focus more on Elvis. You feel me? It's just
because it wasn't really about
much.
him. Yeah,
Exactly.
and most of the time at the beginning when Colonel Parker is like walking around and we're trying to see Elvis, we're always seeing him from behind. We're always seeing like a glimpse of him. We're never seeing him at the forefront, and that's pretty much a metaphor for like the rest of the film. We don't really get to be in his head. We don't really get to understand what he's feeling, the pain he's going through, and it's understandable because there's only so much you can convey with a biopic, and there's only so much you can explore with an actual historical figure. But at the end of the day, it's a movie. This is a character. Give us something to relate to or to hold on to. I think the best moments that we got that were when he did the not the second protest, where he performed on TV, the first one, when Colonel Parker was like, like, do like the clean suit and kind of deal.
It was like a 4th of July performance, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And then he's like, nah, I'm going to stick this microphone in my mouth. And everyone was like, whoa. So that one.
Whoa, dude.
Yeah. Whoa, dude, you really did that. Okay.
Yeah.
That was one of the best moments of the film, because you actually see duality to this character. And then the second one was when he's calling out Colonel Tom Parker after he finds out that he's basically keeping him there for his own benefit, and he's on stage calling him out and they bring the curtains down. That was a really good moment too, because again, we got to see him perform. We got to see him do something, because there comes a point where you wonder, is Austin Butler really great, or are the theatrics that Baz Luhrmann, the theatrics that he's creating, elevating his performance? And I do think there is some genuine talent there, and he did bring that stage presence, but he wasn't given enough of those moments. Like, for example, we're gonna bring it up, Rocket Man. Taron Egerton had a lot of moments where he could just be the character. He could be a person. He could be a human, and we don't really see that humanity when it comes to Elvis. We're still seeing an idealized kind of like rock legend, so to speak, and we don't really get to be one-on-one with this person.
Yeah, I think the few moments where Baz Luhrmann does attempt to like humanize Elvis, I feel like they're just so superficial. They're really just kind of breeze through to just get to, I guess, the good bits. But then the good bits that pay off doesn't really pay off as well as at least I think it does. And another thing that I've been talking about, like aside, we're obviously going to make the, Rocket Man the best biopic that we've seen in the last decade, pretty much. We're going to make those comparisons. Taron Egerton didn't do an Elton John impersonation. Elton, like I saw Rocket Man and I was seeing a queer man who is an addict, who was used and abused for a lot of his career because of this and this and this. And I saw a human. I saw a character. Yes, it is accompanied by Elton John's music, which is so iconic. But Taron Egerton is doing the dancing. Taron Egerton is doing the singing. He is doing everything in his power to embody a human being who just so happens to also be an icon. And I think that's an element that is missing in Elvis, and that's also missing, quite frankly, in Bohemian Rhapsody as well, since we're on the topic of biopics. So yeah, I think Austin Butler, great performance, but the crutch is Baz Luhrmann's style. I think if Baz Luhrmann had given Austin Butler the space to go beyond an impersonation, I would definitely would be on that train of like, oh yeah, he could probably get some award nominations. But I feel like he's gonna fly under the radar, especially with everything else that's coming out this year. There's some really stacked cast.
I mean, it really
films
depends.
Coming out this year.
He's getting his flowers. He's getting his love. So I think he could make it.
He could, if there's him. Enough momentum. Just him. We are not going to talk about Tom Hanks.
It would be another Tick Tick Boom situation. I don't even think it could get editing. Maybe it's too crazy, but also the Academy loves that craziness. So mayhaps.
Yeah.
But I do think he could get that acting nomination, seeing how the year is going so far. Unless something else comes along, but people are loving him.
They're crazy. You crazy girl. That's me. I mean, again, I don't hate the movie. I feel like I really would have like been on an Elvis train if it had been 30 to 40 minutes shorter.
Yeah.
Easily.
I think it's just the fact that, you're watching this film and Austin Butler is performing, and then they actually show the real Elvis Presley, and you're like, huh, bring back the other one. Bring back the pretty boy. That says a lot.
Give me back the full lips.
Give me back the full lips.
It's true, though, because, how do I say this? If you're going to depend... I understand Baz Luhrmann trying to, I guess, push the envelope with the, the typical biopic structure, but he falls into the same tropes very, very, very traditionally. You were just going to transition at the end from the actor or the impersonator at that point in the movie to the real dude, and then we're going to go into like our history.com, our history channel ending. Come on, man. Mm-hmm. Give us a little bit more flavor than that. And the ending, as long as the movie was, the ending felt so abrupt.
Oh yeah.
It was so abrupt, and it's just, I felt like I was on a marathon on my way to like the Rock of Eternity. And still I was like, really, that's it? That this man lived 42 years, shot himself to death, and you're just gonna roll the credits and History Channel this dude? I do not need the wiki. He did the number 2 a little bit too hard.
He was so backed up by drugs that his body just said, I'm about to explode, and he did. But
his inside said, I'm going to create an environment that is so toxic.
Toxic. But also, just speaking of Austin Butler again, because one thing that I kept noticing was that Miles Teller looks a lot like Austin Butler, like not like Austin Butler, like Elvis. And I think then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, nah, it's better that they went with Austin, because he does have that charisma that I don't think Miles Teller could have brought.
Yeah, because it's just Elvis Presley is so particular, because aside from the music, I mean, I'm gonna show my age. I mean, name me one Elvis song.
Heartbreak Hotel, but it's because I saw it in Lilo and Stitch the other day, which goes to my point. I have no knowledge about Elvis Presley going into this film. I have no previous knowledge. All I knew was from Lilo and Stitch and Rita Moreno interviews, where she talks about the fact that she was getting back at Marlon Brando for cheating on her, so she dated Elvis Presley, and she called him sweet but boring.
And what else did she say?
That apparently he wasn't good in bed.
A peasant in the sheets.
A peasant. He might be the king of rock and roll, but he's a peasant in the sheets.
That's iconic. That's so
our
metal.
Queen.
That's rock and roll right there, mama.
That's rock and roll.
I digress. Right. My point is...
And she outlived him. She outlived them all. She continues to do so. But your point is...
My point is that Elvis is no queen. Elvis, as influential as Elvis is to the culture.
most of what Baz Luhrmann showed us, whether he wanted to discuss it or not, was the fact that Elvis was inspired by Black music, by Black culture.
Yeah, Baz Luhrmann never really, yeah, he never really let us forget, which I don't know if the intention was, I think he unintentionally just kept being like, everything he did was stolen from Black people. But, I got the point. I was like, yeah, this was not an original artist. Like, yes, he tried to give back. Yes, he tried to, I guess, be an activist, as, many famous white men attempt to do. But it's just, I don't know. I feel like Austin Butler brought more to Elvis than Elvis did himself. And Baz Luhrmann didn't know how to bank on that and just exploit that, basically. Because I understand that, okay, you want to be unconventional? Sure. You're doing it from the manager's perspective. Same manager that abused this man and took advantage of him for pretty much his entire life. His entire life being in basically his entire career. So you're trying to, I guess, raise awareness about that, but at the same time, you're using the icon, the character, as a show monkey in and of himself in the movie. So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of a paradox, honestly.
Yeah,
Kind of
and you're
shot himself in
still
the foot.
telling the story from the man that used and abused him for his own benefit. You're telling the story through this man that turned this person into a show monkey. Like, regardless of how problematic he may be, at least there was one moment that got me to sympathize, and it was when Colonel Parker signed that damn napkin, and he was like, hey, I'll keep him here. He never got to see the world, and that's what he wanted to do. Then he was freaking bankrupt, and then he owed this little horrible person so much money. After he was supposedly helping him. Like, he charged him for everything, even the air he was breathing when they were in that car. That's crazy.
It is crazy. And I think that those, like, that moment was one of the few moments that you really got to kind of, like, I don't know, understand, like, feel the stakes, I guess.
That was
like
the first moment you genuinely feel the stakes.
You genuinely feel the stakes there, and that's already by the end of the movie.
Yeah, because sure, he was getting death threats and all of that, and you're seeing that happen because of the way that he acts on stage and all that. But you never really feel that anything bad is going to happen for him because you know his life story. You already know how his life is, so you're not really going to, like, he's sure he's getting death threats. He's not going to die now. And also, he's a white man. He's gonna get away with whatever he's doing, and like
he thought he was gonna be the next Bobby Kennedy.
And they told him in the film, like, you're a white man, you're gonna be fine, just keep doing what you're doing unless there's something that Colonel Parker doesn't want you, like, there's a reason he doesn't want you to do that. So that's a whole nother story. But we know he's gonna be okay until we realize that sure, he won't die yet, but he's gonna be living his life miserably trapped in the International Hotel. And that's I think why we feel the stakes at that moment, because it just ruins his quality of life, and then everything went downhill from there.
Exactly. It's just, I feel like it just took us a little bit too long to get to that point. Not that we just want to see Elvis suffering. That's not the point. We just want to, you know, when you're telling a story, we want to actually feel for the character. We want to actually, you know, root for them at a certain point. And I did not feel like rooting for Elvis for most of the movie.
No,
I did not feel a connection. I was mildly entertained, and it got to a point where I was honestly, like, just mentally a little bit exhausted halfway
it's
through.
just an entertaining film.
It's very fluffy.
Yeah, it's very fluffy. It's very spectacle. It's very eye candy. There are some nice shots, which the only one I can think of right now is when he's staring up and the fireworks are going off, and you see it.
Yeah,
and like
that was cute
through the rear view, or like whatever, the car, but the windshield. But yeah, despite like the film, I know that it has really good, appealing moments that are like visually pleasing. I can't think of anything other than that, and it's in the trailer. So there's just a lot going on. It's very bloated. It's very claustrophobic. My heart was racing after a certain point, and I was like, I need a doctor.
But not Dr. Nick. Dr. Nick was just going to shoot you up with some steroids and send you on your way.
Yeah.
Or whatever that he did. I don't know. I don't know,
but he performed. He performed his heart out.
Literally.
He should have gone to a hospital, and they were like, let's put him on stage. He can do it.
That's tough. It is tough. So yeah, again, one of those few moments where I was like, okay, I get it. That's cool. And after the movie ended, I was like, I'm exhausted. I wanted to see Rocket Man again after seeing Elvis. Look at that.
I wanted to see Rocket Man. I wanted to see Lilo and Stitch, and I did. I rewatched Lilo and Stitch, and I love how she's
listening to Art Pop.
Yeah.
A great album by Lady Gaga. Our generation's Elvis.
Yes. No, and Lilo is just talking about how Elvis is a model citizen. Stitch, you should be like Elvis. And it's like, well, Lilo, there are so many things you need to understand, but also it's so funny that they just used an actual picture of Elvis instead of animating it.
Thin lips, man.
I respect them for it. But in conclusion, 3 out of 5, in my opinion.
Solid 3.
Austin Butler was good. The script gave me a headache. Just thinking about it, my brain was hurting. Because how do you write those flashbacks but then mix them? It was just, I need to see that script just to understand.
Don't get me wrong, Wes Anderson's The French Dispatch is like how you execute maximalism with your own unique style. Baz Luhrmann was just vomiting.
Yeah.
Baz Luhrmann vomited maximalism. It was just unorganized and just it discombobulated me. That's the word. I was befuddled, quite truly.
The film is exhausting, but Austin Butler is the saving grace of it all.
Yeah, that's basically it. If it weren't for Austin Butler, 1 out of 5. Genuinely.
Yeah, because I don't know what Tom Hanks was doing. He did something.
He was there. He got COVID for this.
Yeah.
For this?
I can't believe that. For this?
That's crazy. He almost died.
Ooh. Nah, he was fine.
Where can they find you, Josie?
You can find me at the Josie Marie on Twitter and Letterboxd.
And you can find me at Captain Melendez on Twitter and Letterboxd as well. And you can follow Filmme Talk on Twitter. And that's about it. No, I'm kidding. You can subscribe to us also here on the YouTube channel or follow us on, wherever you listen to podcasts. We're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and anywhere else. And be sure to hit the notifications bell on Twitter and YouTube so that you'll have the latest reviews from yours truly. Anything else that you would like to sign off with, Miss Ma'am?
No, Rita Moreno outlived this man, and that's what matters.
That's iconic. And I think we can close with that. Bye.